CalazCon is a show about war, obsession, colonialist occupation, and the many forms of violence those inflict. See the description for content warnings specific to this episode.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to CalazCon. I am your GM, Elspeth, pronouns she, her. Today, I'm joined by Philo.
I remain. Philo T has it. Hello, I hope you're having a good day. I use the they and thems.
And Matt.
I am Matt. Hello. I also hope you're having a good day, and I'm using the he's and the hims.
And Sabriel.
Hi, Sabriel, she, her. I have no control over your day.
And finally, Don.
Hi, I'm Don. I use he, him pronouns.
Don has no opinion on the other people's day. Zero buy-in on that.
It's true. I don't know
Respectable.
you. Also.
We would also like to thank our squad sponsor, Lily Young.
Thanks, Lily.
Thanks, Lily.
Yeah, thanks.
Lily is the only person Don hopes has a good day.
Wow.
That got me.
Okay, so we're back in Downtime. It's time to return back to your wonderful FOB, the end of the line. I'm just going to give our viewers a quick scroll through all these glorious Creative Commons licensed images that we have for the vibes of that place.
Hell yeah.
It's currently being absolutely pounded by artillery, which for some reason is significantly higher in volume than the last Downtime for whatever reason.
Yeah.
That might be.
Yeah.
Why they first are really pissed
imagine.
with us for some reason. It is worth noting that we are currently in a vendetta with the 501st as a result of the last mission, but in our XP stage, we leveled up the squad and took the War Dogs ability, which reduces the impact of what being in a vendetta actually means. But I imagine the scene is pounding artillery shells and like shaking dust come down from the ceiling, clattering glass and all this kind of business throughout the entirety of this. Unless we can somehow deal with it.
Absolutely, but I'd say that there's almost like a sort of like grim joy about it.
For us being war dogs, absolutely, we're kind of into it. It's like, oh, okay, this is what we're here for.
Yeah, and especially of how we characterized your squad of toughs, board squadron. One or more people have erected some really grim notices and effigies for the 501st to read from their side of the siege line.
Cool.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably going on. I'm not sure how Julius feels about that. Something to think about. Early birds also hate you more, unsurprisingly. The Hive actually quite like you. Your best faction relationship, i.e. the only one that is not negative, is with the Jovangelian Empire, which I'm sure you feel great about.
Super good.
Mm-hmm.
So, where would we like to start?
And I'm kind of interested in seeing True, the situation with the proxy that you picked up last mission. Imagine that things have calmed down a bit and we're into Downtime. Are they still with you? What's going on with that?
Yeah, I think personally that's probably an immediate post-mission thing, right? Possibly even before True finds out that Julius is a little murder boy. So, perhaps we start with that. It's the truck touching down in front of the end of the line, and I think she does pop open the back door and see if... I'm not entirely sure how proxies function. I'm assuming she can see this person in, physical space, yes?
Please have some respect. Julius is a large murder man.
I am no murder boy, I am a murder man.
Yes.
I would say so, but not necessarily because there is a scare quotes real-world physical projection. I think that the augmented reality integration of this world is such that it's on unless specified otherwise.
Also, you can just look through your Snyderoscope and see their pronouns, and so you could do it that way as well.
Track them by the presence of their pronouns. Oh dear. So, pulling up, the truck has a chain of 3 shipping containers behind it, which is where, folks are stashed within during mission, whether that's a combat person or, cargo space or what have you. True, pulls a large lever on the back of the truck, and the shipping containers drop down and then, actually land, touch the ground. They have these boosters behind them otherwise. And, she pops the door, looks this person over. So I guess y'all will be staying with us for a minute, huh?
If you wouldn't mind me intruding until I can, regroup a little, yeah, that'd be great. Thanks for the ride, by the way. I've had worse.
She kind of snorts through her nose. You mentioned you, knew Longreach during the fracas there?
Oh, I mean, me and Jessica go way back.
True sneezes. You keep doing that.
How do you think Longreach reacts to this? Is there a sense of just, scared, silence, let True handle this?
Longreach seems fairly at peace with this, which is it's got True on edge a little bit more. I think, from True's perspective, there seems to be some kind of communication between Longreach and this person, who, forgive me, their name has entirely slipped from my mind.
Luster.
It feels like True is kind of cut out of the conversation slightly, and I think, as someone who kind of defines herself quite heavily as Longreach's protector, it throws her off slightly that she's not part of the conversation. So, Longreach is perhaps on edge slightly by virtue of True also being on edge, but True is on edge because of Longreach's own actions.
Yeah.
And so it goes.
Longreach, I think it's fair to say, they're making, polite conversation, small talk, exchanging pleasantries, but not really saying anything substantial, and in the moments where they aren't speaking, there's something very, they seem deep in thought.
I think I do the basic security sweep stuff, I get a grunt to head out and grab me, I feel like a metal detector probably isn't super useful, but she does it anyway. I suspect that proxy bodies, they to have something which could, penetrate our basic security or what have you, it would probably be more likely to be like a data jack or something. But she does it anyway because it makes her feel more comfortable. And I think once she's gotten Lilac situated, I think, she picks a room on the same floor as hers and, gets them situated and comfortable. And then she goes to find Longreach again.
Okay, so in your security sweep, I think this is relatively easy to discover because you kind of did the work for it as part of your groundwork for your last mission. This is a proxy that has been uniquely affected by the sort of AR corruption that you were encountering around the 501st camp in the Curse. So perhaps in the military training scenario that Lilac Luster was a part of, there was a landing, and it went badly, and he did end up lost and scared and confused. It is not your landing.
Interesting.
But his military DFS definitions have been updated, and perhaps that's why he's the one who stood out, the only one who reached out and communicated with you, that it just so happened that he was the one whose role in the Curse military training scenarios, just by sheer coincidence, happened to gel extremely well with what is actually happening here.
I think True does go to find Longreach, check in with them, make sure they're alright. The truck is, one of the engines literally melting. There's just radioactive slag leaking out the back of it. But, I think, True, gets a hand cloth out and makes sure the, single red eye pointer of the sniper rifle is clear and things like that. Reach, your friend we picked up, how are you feeling about him?
Scared. A little.
You're scared of him?
Not of him, but I can tell, no matter what brought him here, I can tell he's earnest. He doesn't mean me any trouble, just, I don't understand him. I don't understand myself. There's a feeling. It's like every time he calls me by a name, it feels natural. It feels mine. It works, but it feels like I'm meeting an old friend, but at the same time, it feels like there's nothing there. It feels like I'm meeting an old friend, but then I think, well, then where did I meet him? What did we do together? And it just feels...
Yeah, I can imagine that being tough, Richie. Look, don't fret about it too much, alright? Let me go talk to them, and I'll figure out if you two have any shared history, alright? Let me handle this, yeah?
As you say that, we've talked off mic about how Longreach has like a physical like data readout thing, a receptacle that might actually print a physical report of some kind. Is that right?
Yeah, I think there are probably diagnostic terminals and stuff in the truck and whatnot that interface with Longreach. I can see it being conceivable that it might be something that True is looking over on a data pad or something while she's kind of giving them the like post mission what do they call it? Not like a wipe down, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'm imagining like the one piece in a very high-tech machine is like an actual physical data printout because it's the most base ground thing. Like this is where you would get your debug report if there was like a very serious like tech error or something. You notice that at some point it's printed something off. There's a slip of paper, like an A5 sheet sticking out. That's different for Americans, isn't it? A small piece of paper.
I mean, I'll take the diagnostics, obviously. Like stand up, pat the top of Longreach's scope with one hand and read it with the other.
Here is more or less what it says. Dear Jessica, I hope that life on the front is treating you better than it's treating me. Are you still meeting that old woman by the market who was giving you the oranges? I hope so. I've been kept up 2 days straight by the artillery fire. That dog I found is gone. I hope it comes back. Sometimes I listen to the static on the radio, what I can make out of the old jazz stations. And I think about you. It goes on like that for about a page.
Conscious about other actions here, but, is there a CalazCon wiki or something like that? Or can I speak to someone on the squad who perhaps knows more about this franchise than has fallen asleep in, like, half of the movies? I think True is wondering whether either Lilac or this Jessica person is like a canon character, you know what I mean? Is this a character from the simulations, or is it an actual, DFS historical, figure? I'm assuming I don't know, either the name Lilac Buster or the, just the name Jessica doesn't really narrow things down, I think. But I'd like to try and see if I know anything about either of those names.
I think this is a very short, long-term project that, to be explicitly clear, would give you a tick towards Longreach's drive. Could you remind us what that is?
Longreach's drive is to ensure that I'm the last of my kind. It actually occurs to me that Longreach's drive should probably be a 3-step clock as well.
Yes, definitely.
Alright, well, you know what? Longreach deserves a win. Let's queue up a long-term project clock.
And might give us an asset or or like a temporary asset or something as well, because I think the drive ones are on top of what the long-term project would normally do. Is that right?
I think as appropriate to the fiction, I think,
Yeah.
I can believe that. So I've set up a new long-term project called Who is Lilac Luster? How many steps do you think that is?
4. Like you said, this is something you just want to investigate right now. I want you to have a good getting your answer this downtime, potentially even.
Sounds good. So I think just finishing that scene, I guess it is a little bit later on. True stood out on the balcony of her room. She looks kind of along the same floor and notices Lilac sat on the bed in their own room. Just breathes out, blows her hair out of her eyes, and then stands up and walks back inside.
Okay.
Looks like we've got another mystery on our hands, gang.
Camera cuts and just Mike there with an incredibly large sandwich about to take a bite from it. One of those really big stacked ones that are pickled. Pickled, sorry, olive. That could be a pickle.
I'd rather it was a pickle. Are we all prepped and ready for downtime? Besides, did we do all our paperwork before we started?
I believe we did.
We just up to antics now?
Speaking of weird AR shenanigans, you captured what you believe to be the source of that corruption that's affected Lilac Luster in your last mission, along with some supply caches. What would you like to do with those?
Well, what are our options?
For the supply crates, I'm guessing those might be like supply points. I know Mike's sort of interested in investigating the AR poisoning thing. Maybe this can be turned to our advantage, but the supply caches, what are those? What are our options?
I would say, keep them for yourself. Give them back to the hive who they were stolen from, or, I guess in theory, give them to anyone else who you want to curry favour with, or, some fourth thing that I haven't thought of.
Is it possible to just redistribute them?
What do you mean?
Okay, we like the hive, okay. I like the hive, okay. I don't know, I don't want to put words in Mike's mouth. But the hive are one group of people, right? And they are specifically a group of civilians who are benefiting from the occupation, right? And I think they're, me, Sabriel, thinks that, it's complicated, and they seem all right to me, But I wonder if it would be the correct thing to do to just, give them away to everyone who lives here.
Oh.
Right? Just the surrounding area from our base. I think the cynical way of looking at this is just sort of we're currying favor among the citizenry around our general area, but also, I just think it's the right thing to do. If we don't decide we need the resources, and frankly, we're very rich right now, I think we can straight up afford to, give it away, and if you want to give us a mechanical benefit for that, that would be cool.
I suppose there's one further question as well, that last mission, we talked about doing some stuff against the hive. It ended up not happening, and we could probably dial back around to that in character, but did that count last mission as contributing towards the DFS's Hearts and Minds goals? Because we helped them out.
I believe so.
We did help them out, despite being on the other side of a war from them.
Yeah, you helped them out by getting the 501st out of...
I feel like if we're redistributing the means of production, then surely, the people who actually live here right now are Evangelion citizens anyway, aren't they?
Yeah. I was thinking, this might be another tick in that as well. I was just wondering if we'd already gotten one from the mission itself.
I was assuming we were just going to schmooze the Joves, to be honest.
Oh, I mean, that's not really where I would necessarily take it. I was thinking more along the lines of, they're Evangelion citizens right now.
Yeah, so to be clear, you have already contributed towards the Hearts and Minds faction goal of the DFS just by doing the mission. Because it definitely helped the Hive, or just what you did, they really needed the 501st gone. And they made it clear that having the supply caches back would be a bonus. I could hear various pitches for... I think that giving the supply caches, just distributing them in general among the population, is a pretty good idea. I could hear various pitches for what that might be. I could hear a pitch for it being a bonus tick. I could hear a pitch for it being, contributing towards you earning a point of heart for squad upgrade. I could hear other pitches.
We've sort of decided we're not trying to upgrade our squad, though.
Yeah. Oh, I could hear a pitch for you picking a squad upgrade that, could be a representation of having people on your side. There's a loyal bar, for example.
Specialist cohort or something.
Ooh.
Or scrapyard, or cover business.
There's one that's a radio station that likes us or something like that, isn't there?
Propaganda radio.
I kind of like loyal bar as a...
There we go, that's what I was thinking.
You can pitch any of these very flexibly. I could hear a pitch for, this show of charity being something that helps you get that, as long as it's something you can flavour, you can, narrativize as, we have this because we've got some Evangelion citizens on our side.
What if we drop it all off at the community hospital and get an infirmary upgrade off of it? which is basically like, it's not that we own this, it's that we, will just occasionally borrow a ward there or something.
I like that mechanically. I like Loyal Bar a lot more narratively.
That's valid.
It also is good, and I've already sort of spun out an idea for how that would go in my head that we don't have to use, but it is very appealing to me, and I am rotating it in my mind.
Rotate away. Spin it out.
Are we all down for giving it away, by the way? I don't know that we've necessarily checked with everyone at the table.
Matt is. Michael is vehemently against this. Possibly one of the things that might... This probably would need to be a asking for forgiveness rather than permission thing as far as he's concerned with. Fortunately, he's probably going to be very busy looking at this AR poisoning thing, and it could be done behind his back fairly easily. And a Loyal Bar would be one of the things that would take the edge off quite a bit.
I think that's a fun idea, if we just lie to Mike.
Yeah. Well, we tell him it in retrospect, so we say, hey, we've got great access to a new bar. Oh, also, we gave away the supply cache.
Yeah. We did buy it with all of the supplies that we had.
Yeah.
Can I pitch what the Loyal Bar thing would look like?
I would really like to hear that, yes.
We set up at a local bar, right? Like maybe out front or something, and we just make it known that we are giving stuff away, right? And we spend like a day or two at that, right? And we have the toughs there because we need to sort of make sure that like nobody starts like, stealing or, if it attracts unwelcome attention from the local authorities, we have some muscle. And we just spend a day doing that. And at the end of the day, the proprietor of the bar, who we have some sort of like arrangement with, just kind of like comes and taps us on the shoulder. And through a combination of their bar suddenly becoming considerably more popular, because, hey, that's the place where those DFS soldiers are just giving stuff away. Holy shit. And they're just like generally approving of what we're doing. We just have an ally now.
All right. I really like that. I want to sort of like dig into it a little. Tell me what keeping Board Squadron in line to maintain order in, like, a crowd of, like, scared and anxious and desperate Evangelion civilians looks like. Because, if I recall, they are literally independent, eager, and wild, or something.
Not all of them are going to be into this, right?
Yeah, so I'm not saying, like, oh, this fucks up your plan. I'm more saying, like, someone tell me how you keep that whole situation together while you do this.
I mean, if people are alright with me continuing to talk, if nobody has something else that they'd really like to do, this might just look like the return in spirit of, like, Captain Julius Thermidor, which is he just lines them all up, and he gives them a big, long fucking lecture about how they have to fucking behave themselves. We're going among the civvies, and if you try any of your bullshit, you are going to scare the hell out of these people that we are trying to charm. And because we are trying to charm them, they're going to give us shit later on down the line. I don't think this is framed to them in any way as a public good. This is framed to them as like, hey, we're getting something from this. We've already, like, got lots of supplies. We are buying with our extras someone who will be there when our back is against the wall.
Yeah, okay. I don't want to understate just, like, how difficult this would be. Like, first, I imagine everyone there, including the owner of this bar, thinks you're there to cause problems and leaves or tries to. Then I imagine there's a stage of, like, okay, we get that you're doing your best, but this is very stupid and you're going to attract trouble. So I think this starts with that bar owner earnestly trying to persuade you to leave. Like, begging at first, then being like, okay, I see what you're trying to do. Please do it somewhere else, where you will not blow up my bar. And then just sort of, I'm imagining as you're giving out this stuff, just like, occasionally like, heading over and talking to you and getting a sense of what your whole deal is. And, yeah, slowly, like, coming around on you that way as much as the, like, increased custom.
I also just think we keep, like, giving him stuff.
Right, okay. So there's an element of, like, bribery here, like, he gets more because you want to, like, have him on board.
I think it absolutely starts as bribery, right? I think it is just sort of like, hey, we are doing this thing. We are redistributing some supplies among the people. You get extra if you let us use your premises.
Okay, this sounds to me like someone we should pick an Indiegogo supporter NPC name for. I'm going to read you off a list, and the options might inform your sense of what the vibe of this bar is. Because I'm going to tell you, the options are a little bit alternative.
Fuck yeah.
Okay. Is your bar owner called Fuel and Fire? Iron and Smoke? A bit too dramatic, we have Deus Ex Machina.
These are names? Like for people?
Yeah. Yeah.
Incredible.
I think we might have fans of a certain other podcast.
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there might be a slight amount of overlap.
Okay, we're coming up to some that I think have more like bartender vibes. Thin Ice.
Oh,
Thin Ice
fuck.
is very good. I want to go to the dive bar that Thin Ice runs. That sounds sick.
Yeah. Your other options
Yeah.
are Cloud9, Bad Vibes, but with no I, and Split Second.
Bad vibes.
It's
Yeah.
gotta be Thin Ice.
It's
I
really
quite like
good.
Thin Ice.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's gotta be Thin Ice.
Just to get us on record, Thin Ice's pronouns? He, him? Are we sticking
Sure.
with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, alright.
Yeah.
Great. Cool. Matt, you said you had an idea for the name of this bar.
Yeah, I don't know what it was called. Well, this is a pitch, of course, because I know a lot of the areas around Hestiol have kind of been taken over and renamed by CalazCon, effectively. So I don't know what it was called beforehand. Maybe the Ice Hole or something like that. But has this been taken over and renamed as a way of getting more CalazCon attendees in? Is this bar called the Smoke and Roses? Which is the name of the fourth longest fan fiction in the Calazar media fandom.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I had the Cube as the name pre-CalazCon, because it's Ice's
Yeah, okay.
Cube.
Oh, the Cube, but now the Smoke and
God.
Roses.
I really would like to come out strongly against the Ice Hole. I think it has connotations that we don't need.
Okay.
Alright, it was called that for a week, and then some people took him aside and were like, listen, dude,
No,
Man.
you gotta change
Man.
it.
I get-
No, fella.
I get the pun. The cube is better, but the cube is
Cube-
better.
the
Yeah.
It's
cube
also
is
shaped
better.
like a cube.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say the building is just a cube, it's a prefab.
Yeah, I think the fanfic name is good. If I had a tone, it was not because I thought it was a bad idea, but because the
I like
fan
both of
fiction
those.
aspect of it exhausts me.
Welcome to CalazCon.
Yeah, no, I understand what I signed up for, but I sometimes forget. All right, that sounds great. I love Thin Ice.
Right, yeah, I'll have to get him on screen so you can meet him sometime soon. And
Thin Ice feels like a shotgun under the bar kind of bartender,
Mhm.
yeah,
right?
right.
Yeah.
mhm.
Thin Ice feels like a robot arm bartender to me.
I was actually thinking more than an arm robot potentially.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, tell me about Thin Ice.
I was thinking the kind of image that came into my head when we were discussing this. I know we've used sort of face claims from various wrestling promotions before, but and you mentioned maybe they were more of a robot. I was thinking the Butcher from The Butcher and the Blade might be a good call here, but maybe a lot of it is robotic.
Okay, what about the Butcher from The Butcher and the Blade on robot legs? Just like robot leg from the waist down, like prosthetics?
And this would be a big, heavily tattooed white guy with a big mustache.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I feel like he has big mustache energy.
Yeah.
And a monocle sometimes.
Does he have a monocle sometimes?
Yeah, for reading.
Oh, yeah, right. That seems like it would be really good for that.
Great.
I love the idea of someone disputing their bill and this enormous semi-robotic bartender clambers over the bar, puts on his single monocle and starts reading down the receipt in precise detail, unflinchingly.
I think he also has a robot voice box.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, nice.
I think artificial people could just have whatever voices in this setting, but I think he has a specifically very robotic sounding voice box. Right? Whatever.
Robot?
Yeah.
Or has he got a robot voice filter on his regular voice?
No, I think whatever prosthetic he could afford was he spent it all on the legs, and then he didn't have much left over for the voice box.
Yeah.
He was in a very interesting accident.
Yeah. I apologize. We've really front-loaded some very important bookkeeping that kind of had to be handled on mic. But who wants to take an actual mechanical downtime action?
I mean, I'd like to have a depressing scene with Mike.
It wouldn't be a downtime without it.
No.
Maybe this is in the back room of the bar? that we now have.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a good way to get this on screen. Yeah.
And I think it is an exact mirror of our downtime from the last downtime, which is just like, I show up with a bottle.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And I think this is going to be happening, like, chronologically after some of the actions that Mike's going to be taking, because he's going to have been very, very busy doing some stuff while all of this was happening behind his back. So I think, like, some of these other actions will be happening during this. But he is subsequently come around now that there is a bar that he sort of begrudgingly thinks is kind of cool.
He's taking solace in the fact that he could just show up and drink in the back room of the bar. And I do have probably a more expensive bottle of tequila than the like Baron Bastardos brand tequila that we were drinking last time. So this, to be clear, is a cut loose. I think I'd rather roll for it at the end because I have an idea of how this is going to go. It's really just going to be sort of flavored by how Mike responds to it.
Please.
Sure, let's shoot.
Yeah. All right, so walks in, puts 2 glasses down on the table.
Mike spots what's happening and like gives you a little like little nod, sees what's going on.
Hello, Michael.
Julius pulls a chair back.
Nice place. Well, it isn't, but that's the appeal.
Annoyingly, it's my kind of place. You know, I know they say you should. It's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission, but
I wasn't even going to ask for forgiveness.
So that's one of the few things I do like about you, Julius. Your candor.
Yes, well, I don't have a lot to lose, so it's easier if I just speak my mind.
No, I appreciate that. I think we might have gotten off on the wrong foot last time. I had a talk with True about it, so I'm willing to hear you out. Have a drink.
Oh, well, that is a little entertaining. I'd like to tell you something, and I wanted to tell you because you already hate me. Not that I'm swearing you to secrecy or anything. It would be a little silly.
That's fine. For what it's worth, I heard about what went down at the end of the mission. I was off dealing with the other thing. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. I don't know what went down, but fuck these guys in the 501st. I know what some of the guys are saying, but my only problem is you didn't go far enough. Left that force majeure prick alive.
Well, he was grieving, and I saw something a little familiar. Do you know why I'm here, Mike?
I'd like to say you saw which way the wind was blowing and sided with the winning team, but I don't think it's quite that simple, is it?
I remanded myself into DFS custody. I remanded myself into DFS custody because I'm responsible for the deaths of my entire squad.
Mike takes a drink. Is that right?
Yep. I was ordered to send them on a suicide mission. And as with every order that I was given for 17 years, I executed it without complaint. And then I went back to my tent and I sat down on my Jovangelian issue officer's cot, and I thought about what I was doing and who I was doing it to. And I signed out a single vehicle transport, and I tried to stop it. It was over by the time I got there. So I picked up my lieutenant's vehicle and started walking towards the closest DFS camp.
Right. And your lieutenant's vehicle, that's the, Mike holds his hands up as if they're the little horns of a bull.
That's correct. Lieutenant Apopanax win, and then suddenly there is this moment where, like, Julius has had this head of steam, right? Like, he's unburdening himself, you know, right? He's like, yeah, like, I'm getting it out. And then as soon as he says that name, he stops, like, dead. And he takes a drink. And then he pours himself another drink. And then he drinks that drink.
Right. Mike has had a facial journey during this. He is not particularly impressed that you sent a squad on a suicide mission, as someone that has generally not been ranking high enough to be doing that kind of stuff, and he has disillusioned like DFS soldier. That is his opening. I think most of the time, because he's a mechanist sergeant, even though he's a very good pilot, a lot of the times he'll go out in like a standard mech and be pushing it too far, it'll break, and so he is back in the base for a lot of the time. So even though he wouldn't have been sent on suicide missions, he knows people that kind of have been, and he's not impressed by this. And, this is also why he's also developed his own mech that can keep up with what he wants to do. And so he's aware that this is a thing that happens. Then you went against orders. And he's like, I've got to be honest with you. That seems like the worst of all possible fucking worlds, Lieutenant. Like, if you're going to send your troops away, you might as well just sit and live with it.
Yeah. You're absolutely right.
Or you just don't fucking do it in the first place. I've got to be honest with you, Julius. That was real fucking stupid.
Yes. Yes, Michael, it absolutely was. They built it. They built it themselves. I mean, it's technically standard issue, but there's a lot of prototype weaponry in there, and it required an almost ground-up overhaul. They were very, very good at that sort of thing.
This was your lieutenant.
That's correct.
Michael is conflicted at this point, because this is technically an enemy soldier, but it's also, Mike has seen this mech, and he'll say, it's well put together.
They were extraordinarily talented.
Let's not get too far. But he will pour out a bit more of the tequila and hold it up as if for a toast to a fellow engineer.
Yeah, absolutely. Julius toast the hell out of them.
There is one follow-up question, though. And, I'm loath to bring it up in case it sets me off again, but when you told me that the reason your mech can do what it does was love, and Michael is staring you dead in the eyes, what did you do?
How do you mean?
You said you sent off your squad to their deaths.
Yes.
And Michael's not stupid. He can pick up some of the stuff, and this is going from what you said before.
Mm-hmm.
Julius, what did you do?
Fraternization is permitted, typically, by Evangelion Command, as long as you get results. And we got results. We had known each other since we were very small. I wanted to get married. They said I was stupid, which I was, even if we weren't in the army together. They didn't do that sort of thing, and I was happy for it to be whatever they wanted it to be.
It takes another drink.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to be nice. He's trying to be nice for True. Like that conversation we had last Downtime, it's like he's trying to be less of a completely aggro bastard to everyone, but he just shakes his head, and he's just like, gets up from his chair, and he's like, that's fucking cold, and just walks out. Shaking his head.
Yeah, Julius pours himself another drink, and he toasts the air.
Meanwhile, in the back of Michael's head, there's the shadow version of Renee going, ask him about movie night. He does not.
I'm gonna roll that cut loose. So 1 dice. I got a 4. Nice.
Nice.
I had 5 stress, so I'm in a pretty good shape.
Yeah.
I guess Julius feels unburdened by that.
I believe you get a new belief.
I do get a new belief. I am trying to work out exactly what it is. I will let everyone know when I've got there.
Remind us where your beliefs about each other are at right now.
My current belief about Mike is Michael has no understanding of how the war will crush him.
My current beliefs about Julius are turncoats can't be trusted, I'm watching you, and Julius is here to usurp me. We will see how that goes. Also, I should say at this point, since we're discussing beliefs, at the end of the last mission, Slipaway Bolt, Mike's rival, came into play and inflicted a consequence, and as a result of that, because of the rival mechanics, I add an additional connection tick there, which I have done so, and have added the belief. This is in relation to, Slipaway starting shit with Michael. Mike believes that Slipaway has a similar plan to what he has in terms of getting above and getting out of your situation, and their new belief is this is all part of a Slipaway play for leadership of the vermin.
Well then, who has another action in mind?
I've got some I can take back during the period whilst all of this was going on, behind Mike's back. I think he was very basically trying to figure out what's going on with this, because I think the supply caches were all taken away, but we still have this item which we think was the result of the AR stuff. And I think he's been looking at this in the workshop, in the testing facility, and I think mechanically this will be an enhance action, or possibly two enhance actions, actually, because that will get me up to fill my thing. But also to colour the scene whilst he's doing that. Do you want to tell me a little bit about this?
Yeah, okay, so I'm picturing you, unboxing this or retrieving it from everything that you repossessed from the 501st camp. And what I think this looks like is a slightly zany 1950s pulp sci-fi contraption vibes to it. It's like a large sort of UFO-shaped disc. I'd say that you probably need 2 hands to hold it, with a UFO-esque dome in the middle.
Ooh.
But that dome is tinted black. You can't see in it except that it rhythmically emits a pulsing red light. It's bordered around the edge of the circle, the UFO shape, with regular pointed crisscrossing wiring, and the main body of this circle, other than that dome in the middle, is painted in the 501st colours. A lot of purple, I think.
This isn't an ability that gives me infinite knowledge of everything, especially if stuff's been custom and put together. But is there anything that Gearhead gives me, if I know exactly what parts, manufacture, model year went into a machine? In terms of, I'm imagining I'm going to need some kind of roll to get into the nitty gritty of it, but do I recognise some kind of emitter? What's the general vibe of what this is putting out? Or I guess should I ask, is there anything I get from this, or is it too custom even for that?
I think that's enough to get the broad genre of what this is. This is a storage device that you would use for high-load, high-intensity AI applications.
Oh, that's interesting, because we'll come into what my quirk was going to be, and that might tap into this as well. This might, in fact, I had already written this down, but this might inspire Mike a little bit. So this is a storage device for AIs, or for what AIs produce, sorry?
Yeah, this is in other sci-fi parlance. You don't know the extent to which this has been filled up or developed or whatever. That's something you could investigate, but you might want to think about how to go about doing that.
Sure.
But this could be an AI core.
I see.
If it had or has a whole AI stored on it.
And a potentially sapient AI, because the quirk I was going to add to the Vector Mantis, based on the end of what happened in the last mission where I was doing some long-range shooting towards Slipaway Bolt, I was going to go with an enhanced targeting AI, which I don't think is necessarily a full, sapient AI, but more an assistant, just a tracking thing like that. Nothing. I'm assuming this is a proper, potentially sapient AI core?
Yeah, this is big enough that this could hold something sapient, yeah.
No wonder Michael was distracted. You were able to do such. He's looking at this, and the entirety of Board Squadron is just March sneaking behind him in a not particularly sneaky way because they don't have the stealth upgrade, but he's just completely enamored with this. Slowly the rest of everyone out, Spanners has left to go and help do all of these things. He's just whoa. Okay, cool, interesting. I was going to ask about turning it off, but I don't think even Mike's that cult at this point. Maybe I'll get Julius to do it, but it's interesting. Very interesting. And then he just looks up and just realises he's the only person here, and then goes to bed.
So, what do you do with it? What do you intend to do with it?
Mike's going to talk to True about it.
Oh, that's always a bad sign. That is asking for permission, not forgiveness. That's hilarious.
Interesting.
We had this a little bit on camera last time, but, like, Mike knew True, like, back in the day. Like, they were before, True left the DFS in that situation. I think, was Mike aware about the Longreach situation at that point?
No, I think she was supposed to leave. Like, in my mind, they were part of another, like, frontline squad together. Or maybe, like, a mechanized cavalry squad.
Yeah.
And True thought she was going to leave, and was about to leave, and then basically got kind of invited to this additional sort of elite military testing program. But it was after she'd left this, as yet unnamed mechanized infantry squad, and then at some point True's name, whatever it was before she was True, shows up in the list of deaths.
And then Mike, who had said he was going to quit the military, didn't, for reasons relating to that, possibly relating to reasons what might happen to an ex-illegal mech racer if you're no longer useful, or if the cops are after you. And yeah, then didn't. Does Mike know about Longreach now? Is that a conversation they've had?
Great question.
Like, how broadly aware are we of Longreach? Because it's because we know it's a big sniper rifle. Do we know the sentiency?
Ipse definitely does.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it feels odd if Ipse is the only one in on it, maybe.
True trusts Michael to the point that he would probably know. If you want to put that on camera, then we can, but equally I'm not adverse to him knowing.
I think he would know, but it would be because it's been a month since the start of the...
Yeah, and the rest, right?
There's been time. Like, they've had some conversations.
Yeah, some amount of it is, like, catching up on whatever, isn't it? So, like, yeah. And it probably is a lot of True trying to justify the fact that she essentially faked her own death for X number of years.
Yeah, like, they would have...
To him, specifically.
That wasn't on camera, but they would have had that conversation, like, even before. So. Yeah. So I think it's going to be, and this doesn't have to be the next scene, but the general plan is to discuss what to do with this with people Michael likes and trusts enough to discuss this kind of thing. So. And
you can't spell trust without True.
Yeah, so, True, Longreach, Ipse, probably Lilac Luster, if we've been introduced at some point, unless Lilac's Lilac has been properly cued in. And Lilac probably would have an opinion about this kind of thing.
Yeah. They're on site, right?
Yeah.
True is, she's not keeping them under armed guard or anything, but she is, like, letting people know that we have a guest and is like, listen, just keep an eye out on them. They don't seem directly malicious, if nothing else. He a little confused, but I think they got the spirit.
I think after that, Mike was asking if they should come in on it and potentially not. So yeah, like Longreach, Ipse, and True. At some point, we need a discussion of what we're going to do with this AI core, because we're going to need to do some kind of investigation, right? Which I suspect might end up being some kind of long-term project. But yeah, and that's that. Took my additional quirk, the enhanced targeting AI, or I can call it enhanced targeting system. Actually, I think that'd be better just to not muddy the water there.
Let's hear from Ipse. Ipse, what plans do you have?
Yes, I have a couple of plans. I might also be taking an enhanced action to try and fill out that track on my RV. I think that's going to be a fairly simple one, but we can do it now.
I think this will be when Mike, brings you in on this thing.
I was going to say, this might be when Mike tells me about the discovery, actually, so that's probably a good time to do that. Yeah, I think we can maybe even skip over me asking Mike to help out finishing up my improvements to the Mac, but I've obviously got my vehicle set up in the upgrade we had. I don't actually remember.
The testing facility.
Testing facility, that was it. Yep. Just running it through some final paces. I think I've asked specifically after the last mission to make sure that I can perform in close quarters, and I think my new quirk's probably going to be something related to that.
Definitely it's been kitted out in a way where the seat is much more suited to your body. Like, I don't know if comfortable is the right word, but it's definitely the assumptions that this was made for a non-artificial entity have been removed. And it seems like Michael, for all of his flaws, appears to have done a pretty good job in, and will have, there will have been back and forth conversations, because as much of an asshole as Mike is, he does love Arby's. And yeah, you'll be keyed in on this AI call. We'll just get a scene of like opening like a cupboard, and it's just kind of in there. And it's just glowing red. We just get the camera shot where it's from inside the cupboard, and you just open it, looking at it, just goes red, and it's just like,
I think I see the red glow, and I literally just say, "This seems ominous."
Like if I know my tropes, this is one of them evil AIs.
Longreach's eyes are red. Don't be rude.
No offense.
Are you currently confident this is related to the AR corruption that we were
100%
looking into?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how or why. I need to it took me this long to get this far into it, but yeah, I'm going to need to put some dedicated effort about it. Like I just wanted to, I spoke to True, especially with her situation, and there's another person there as well. Like Michael probably know Wink, because a lot of the Pearl staff don't necessarily know, but that's, we're both quote-unquote secret keepers about this now at this point, I guess.
Well, I agree we should certainly investigate this device, but let's make sure we keep our wits about us, stay cautious with this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy to lend my assistance.
Absolutely. I appreciate that.
I don't think we need to add any more to that particularly. Like I said, probably quite a short scene, and I just want to tick off my vehicle enhancement track. And that fills my track up, so I'm going to get a new quirk, which I will have a brief think about. I want something that describes having the ability to do a big punch occasionally. I'm just trying to think of how to word that as a quirk.
I kind of like the idea that because you can take G-Force better, we can put more power in the punches because we don't need to have G-Force stabilizers. Because so this could be G-Force rerouting or something like that. That's
Remove
not quite right.
Stabilizers.
Yeah, I was going to say something that's deactivated
Bypass
stabilizers, remove stabilizers, bypass stabilizers. Yep.
If we want something a bit more general than stabilizers, then should we have removed safety limiters or personalized safety limiters?
It also makes it a very difficult mech for a non-artificial to pilot in general, just because you'd feel like you'd be getting pummeled.
Disabled life support.
I like bypassed. Bypass is a good word for me. Limiters. I was also thinking of interlocks.
Hell yeah.
I like limiters. Limiters is good. Bypass limiters. Or G limiters, specifically, I'm going to put down.
Love G limiters.
Exactly.
That's something you'd have on a Gundam.
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, that's great. So, yeah, basically we've worked together to make it so the RV is operating for, it no longer operates at human safety standards.
Yeah, incredible. Who else has something that they'd like to handle?
I'd like to have Mike fix my Mac for me.
It does sound important.
That does sound like that's my job, to do a quote callback from last Downtime. Yeah, and I think this is now happening after some of this, and we're still getting these artillery strikes coming in. Yeah, are you going to give me an assist for this engine? I think Mike is actually very quiet. It's not even the shit talking anger that he had before. It's almost like he's working out what he wants to say, but then just gets deep in his work before he gets around to saying it, if that makes sense. It's very perfunctory.
Yeah, I wonder, is there any difference now that he knows?
Yes, there is a difference. Mike still has, one conversation with True isn't enough to... Well, in some ways, part of the reason why Mike hates the Gillians so much is partly because they attacked his childhood home city, or where he lived at the time, but also because he thought they killed True. And now that's not the case. So there is a little bit of that coming off the edges. But, Mike is not sure whether... because Mike is generally sympathetic to this whole situation. That's rough.
Wild.
But, broadly speaking, that's a rough thing to happen to someone. But at the same time, that's fucking cold. And it also was a really fucking dumb... Mike would not have done this. He would have gone rogue at a much earlier point. And he knows this. He has been a military man long enough to know that sometimes, shit happens with the chain of command. But it's just, he doesn't know what to make of it. And so that's just not a conversation he's happening yet. It's
okay.
As well as, the fact that just yelling at Julius doesn't seem to do anything, which is because, he does occasionally learn from his mistakes. He was planning on doing a different way of antagonizing Julius now. And instead, he's just been kind of thrown off kilter by this revelation. Like, maybe he'll come back around to it when he realizes some other stuff, but it's just like, yeah, that's fucked up.
All right. Cool. So what is the disgusting number of dice you get to roll for this?
I don't get to roll a disgusting number of dice yet.
Okay.
I will do at some point in the future. I will roll 3 dice if you're assisting me, however.
Yes, for sure. Which is very businesslike, if Mike is also very businesslike about it.
Absolutely very businesslike. 4-1-3.
Right.
Like, very businesslike. Almost seems distracted around you, which is rare when he's dealing with RVs.
Alright, so I tick my clock twice. I'd like to just roll that again, just to get it out of the way.
Ooh! 366!
Fuck's sake! Why
That's
couldn't
a
that
crit.
happen before?
Hold on, it might.
Yeah, that doesn't do anything
How full
for me,
was
though.
the clock before? Oh, I think a crit marks 5, so it leaves you, like, 1 off from having that your level 1 harm done.
Okay, but level 1 harm gets cleared automatically when you take the action.
Yeah.
Would it, like, roll over in some way that clears it?
No.
Yeah, that's what I thought. God damn it! Alright, what is broken arm reduced to?
Well, sprained arm, right?
New arm.
I actually don't hate that. I don't hate the idea of just, like, yeah, it's completely fixed, but, like...
I mean, that would make sense for this being a crit that didn't actually... Like, he's just completely replaced the arm. It didn't really need to be done, but it's been done. We had a spare one on like, a separate mech.
Yeah, I don't hate the idea of just, like, fresh joints or something like that.
Oh, yeah. That's good.
Yeah, in theory it's completely fixed, but it hasn't been worn in.
Yeah, you've got to get used to it.
Yeah.
Okay. There is a moment at the end of this, which I think works really well with the double sixes, where Julius is just standing back from the mech with his hands on his hips, just sort of like looking at it like very appreciatively. He says to Mike, who is like probably like wiping his hands off or something similar, "Michael,
Julius,
you are the second best engineer I've ever had the pleasure of working with."
Mike's brow funnels. Goes like he's about to say something, and then walks off again. And once again, the spectre of Renee is like, "Movie night! Ask him about movie night."
True. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Alright, let's get to work on that long-term project. True's gone on a Wikipedia binge. She's on the CalazCon wiki. About half an hour in, she realizes that she doesn't care about this at all, and tries to, rope some of Board Squadron in to help her, or some of the support staff, or something like that.
We could name one who is super into CalazCon.
Well, that's what I was thinking. It's like, what True does is she asks for, like, someone's insight on it, and she's like, I got kind of like a fan project, I guess. And then, it's True still scrolling the wiki, but now she has, like, the most junior member of Board Squadron who's like, now this is 70 years old, but it has some really interesting thoughts on gender politics. And True is just, like, staring into the middle distance.
I love the idea that you had to, like, really coax this out of them. Like, think about what we said about Board Squadron. You had to go to Board Squadron and be like, okay, and look at all these, like, hardened soldiers and be like,
I need a weeb.
I need one of you to confess to liking anime. Not just anime, but anime of the enemy.
I'm gonna put down a suggestion box here. You don't have to put your names on it, but I do need to know which of you are weeboos.
See ya, booze.
Alright, so I'm thinking this is probably a study action, oddly enough, working into this 4-step long-term project. Anyone feel like helping?
Oh, I'm always down. Unless someone else is interested in it.
Sounds good to me.
I mean, I can help wrangle the nerds, perhaps.
That sounds amazing. She leaves at a certain point and just brings back Julius to babysit instead.
Yeah.
And we get a 6. Booyah.
Yo.
Nice. Are we done?
No.
No. It's a 4-step clock. 1 to go. But guaranteed to be finished with.
I thought it was an 8-step clock. Oh, and we were... Oh, you're not talking about the Discover the Back Passage one.
No, I'm talking about his Lilac Cluster.
Ah.
Yeah.
The entrance to the spaceport is not on the CalazCon wiki, as far as we're aware.
Hilarious if so.
Sorry.
Like, it's gotten, like, some feedback from the from the curse situation, and yeah. Well, second verse, same as the first. May as well invest another into Lilac Lux, which I think is just True gets like a character list of like characters who may be applicable, and then goes to talk to Luster, and is just like asking, slightly leading questions to be like, and do you remember your childhood at all? Very talking therapy to find out the true identity of Proxy. Cool.
Is this in the bar?
Yeah, do you think this is in the bar?
Yeah, it's in like a booth. She's got some like printouts in front of her, like a manila envelope, which is a little battered because nothing stays unbattered when it's in the truck. And yeah, she's just like, asking these seemingly innocuous questions, but she's like folding corners of character profiles because she's just printed out the wiki pages for different characters.
I love the idea that like all these weirdly hyper-specific questions, because there's got to be a lot of different characters, and that Luster could be somehow related to, and some of them are more important than others. So imagine that there's questions that are like, do you remember being the secret seventh son of a noble lineage who was taken to a convent in a volcano in order to keep his illegitimate birth secret?
Crosses 3 things off.
That does at least rule out half of them. Yeah, I was going to say, she has 8, and somehow that only reduces it to 4.
And then the next question is something like, did you have a friend in the Air Force who went by Big Sneezy or something? It just goes, like, one end to the other.
Yeah, because some of it's, like, the slightly canonical, like, weird manga stuff, like the Gundam one where it turns out that there's chimpanzees driving Zaku's and all sorts. It gets out there.
Wait, did that happen?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a very strange side story. Anywho, so yes, that completes the Who is Lilac Luster clock. I don't know if this symbolizes us helping Lilac have a better idea of their sense of self or what have you, but in my mind it's, True's primary concerns are confirm Lilac is safe, confirm that Longreach is safe around Lilac, and, try and alleviate Longreach's concerns.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you bring all your research to Lilac Luster, and you have this conversation. I think at first it must be very frustrating because Lilac Luster isn't familiar with any of these. Or recognizes some of them. Some of them are probably might be old enough that he's actually seen them, but he certainly doesn't see himself as any of these. I think that, just having this as a conversation starter maybe helps you get an angle on him that you hadn't seen before. You see, I think that he is actually kind of curious because he's picked up that this whole CalazCon franchise deal is somehow relevant to the front of a war that he now finds himself on. So I think he expresses some curiosity, and that gets him talking. Like, he says, okay, wait, so what's the deal with this? Wait, hold on, that's a situation. They had a convent in a volcano, and it just, gets him talking. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think you start getting some more details about his life. You talk about some plot point in the CalazCon show, and he mentions being stationed at a similar place or being found in a similar situation. And I think he says stuff like, yeah, I remember when he was in the siege for that city. It was a rough time. We had to do a night march, 20 miles. All our personnel carriers were shot. Things like that. What this gives you is more details that let you relatively easily, corroborate what he's saying. And in some ways it makes the picture muddier, because what you find is Lilac Luster is or was a real historical DFS soldier. But this isn't Lilac Luster.
This is a proxy that thinks or has been programmed or has been corrupted as such that they believe they're Lilac Luster, and in that scenario, if they think they're Lilac Luster, and if they act like they're Lilac Luster, and if they have all of Lilac Luster's memories, why wouldn't they be Lilac Luster?
Oh, it's weirder than that, because there's layers, because Lilac Luster was a real DFS soldier who was alive at a time where Lilac Luster could well have been incorporated into the original training data that the curse is built on.
Oh, that's interesting.
But as part of this corruption from the AI core that Michael has, that real historical personality has been, pulled out of time and, updated, essentially.
What do they actually want to do now?
I mean, like I said, they're not entirely aware. They're,
Well, I think from this, we both... Because once True starts to realize what's happening, I don't think she's playing the hidden information game anymore. I think she's saying, I think you were probably based on someone, and I don't remember when the curse was set up, but I suspect that, they're probably no longer around. You have all of this history. Where do you want to be? I have no right to keep you here.
Okay. Before we discuss how you approach it and how Lilac might respond, I do have one other piece of information. If you dig into this a little deeper, the stories that Lilac tells you aren't quite right. It's stuff like, yes, the historical Lilac Luster might have been stationed in this city that he talks about, but there was not a siege there. Or if it was a siege, it was in the other direction. It's stuff like he might name a historical battle, and the details seem plausible, like every contextual bit of information. The broad strokes of it seem correct, but that specific battle didn't happen. And you realize what it is. It's like you're talking to a language model that was trained on the life of Lilac Luster. Lilac will tell you lots of very Lilac Luster-esque things are of the genre of things that happened in Lilac Luster's life. They did not.
Interesting. I don't necessarily think that this changes how Truth feels about this person, though. As someone who is currently kind of caring for an artificial intelligence, I don't think the fact that, to them they are still genuine memories and whatnot. So, I'm very keen to kind of preserve this person's personhood. And I don't think the fact that it's not actual history would dissuade me from that, I guess. So, from my perspective, question still stands. They can lurk around the base all they like.
Okay.
If they want to leave, then fine, we're trying to work on leaving too. If they want to help, then they can help.
Yeah, how does he take this whole, explanation, I think?
She is very, not hands-off, but she's not saying, lol, your memories are real, fake. It is talking through what they know, based on maybe some of Michael's research, based on what they know about the curse, based on what they know about some of the Calazar stuff that was happening there,
He says, alright. Okay. Thanks, I guess. It's okay. It's okay. I can work with this.
Yeah, well, you can't help how you come together as a person, right? But, what happens next is entirely up to you. I know you're not in the best space for it, but, it is your life. And anything I can do. I think she does try to reach for their hand, which, I'm not sure if that actually, I don't know if proxies are tangible, forgive me.
I think that it isn't sensation, but for the sake of the, augmented reality, fidelity, you can give the appearance of doing that, but it doesn't feel like you're touching a hand.
Then she does that.
If I, wanted to stay, am I a liability?
No, of course not.
Okay.
The whole thing with the, Michael's notes call it an AI poisoner. The whole thing with the, technology there, we'd hardened our tech against it deliberately, really. You couldn't have known and you couldn't have helped it. But, we can help you with that, I think. Make it so it's, maybe less of a problem in future. I'm about as experienced as anyone with, artificial persons and such. You're welcome to talk to Ipse or Longreach about that. But, no, I don't think you are, at least.
Okay. And what you've said, it sounds... You've got this right. you're saying there's somewhere out there's people who feel what I feel, or remember it as I do, or something like it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
I owe you a lot. If I decide I want to make this he gestures at everything. I want to make this the bad dream, and go back there instead. Will you help me?
Yeah. Of course. I don't think she'd considered that might have been an option. Local woman contemplates what's real to a proxy. Yeah, of course.
Alright. Thank you. I need some time.
Yeah, take it, I was gonna say the bar tab's on me. Yeah, just, take the space and, me or, well, anyone, we're here if you need to talk, alright?
Yeah. Oh, one other thing. You've told me where the time that I know comes from. What about Jessica, Thomas, Ellis? What about theirs? He's saying, like, every name that he's called Longreach by.
It's possible they're out there. I don't know where, I don't know what happened to, Lila Gluster. I mean, you get military data, you get, training reports and, badges or whatever. You don't tend to get, who's waiting for him back home. Can we, have retroactively assumed that this is happening at the same time as Michael and Julius' scene, so that, True can look across the bar at Michael?
Michael is looking haunted because he's just heard something, but you don't know what he's just heard.
Yep. And, like, her brow knots for a second.
Mm-hmm.
They could still be out there. I don't know. But it's something you could find out.
I saw them. You guys, he's referring to seeing them in Longreach. I have a question. When given that angle on it, the angle of I saw these people in Longreach, do you look into them?
Look into who? Longreach?
Into the, like...
Oh, I see. The people he's talking about.
Like, remembers and, like, recognized as Longreach.
Alright, but only because I don't have to read the CalazCon wiki again. She sits back in the seat and, like, pulls her knees up, so that her knees are kind of trapped between her and the, table side, and then starts, scrolling through her datapad again.
It looks like much the same story, but, there is a note that I want to end this on. So, your, like, systems, your AIs, and your apps and proxies and so on, there's a degree of, like, them being interlinked, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're all sharing, like, a digital space, right?
Yeah. I think the next time you're in a hangar with the truck, you find that they are a similar situation to Lilac. The friends that he mentions, who he seemingly mistook Longreach for, they were all real historical soldiers who were more or less contemporaneous with him. But again, the details are blurry and not quite right and indistinct. But then next time you're in the truck, there's some new printouts. There's like an old armory inventory that got taken by Ellis, except it's from a place that Ellis never visited. You were just, like, researching. There's, like, a photo of Thomas with some family, except the family, you check and it doesn't match his family at all. And all of these are things that have been printed off by Longreach, seemingly unaware as, like, a result of your research. And I think from this you put together some part of Longreach is running on a deep level that Longreach is not cognizant of, is running the same thing as Lilac Luster for each of these people. So you had one answer to is Lilac Luster. The second answer is Lilac Luster is a tiny fragment, like less than a 1% of another Longreach.
Well, that's not ideal. But I also don't think True knows that that's Longreach's drive. I genuinely don't think it's come up. So I think it is something that True mentions to Longreach, and kind of, not in a, like, again, she's being frank, she's being open-handed, she's, talking about what she's found via researching and what have you. And, she mentions that, okay, well, I thought they had all been destroyed. I don't know how I feel about, well, no offense. She kind of butts her forehead against the scope of the sniper rifle. I kind of figured you were the last of them. Pats the top of the scope again and then gets up.
Why did you think they'd stop?
Optimism. Perhaps I am, maybe I just assume the basic human decency kind of thing. Think the best in people. Maybe I thought they'd run out of parts. Not every on the battlefield has one of you bolted to them, do they? They should be so lucky.
Yeah. What you're saying is right. And I'm a swarm of ghosts blurred together and blended and evened out until you can't tell one from the other. I'm not any of those people, but I am there as some of everything they saw and learned. That stuff that you printed out, that's my brain firing. You asked me to shoot, and I write 1,000 of those love letters that never got sent to another imagined soldier. Barely exists except for me.
Rach, you can't help that. You are those things, but you're a person too. Those aren't distinct things, I guess. But we're all kind of made of ghosts. And I don't mean to minimize your experience or what have you, but, I miss home. When I'm tracing paths for us across the battlefield or what have you, I'm writing love letters too.
I know I can't help myself. But I know what I can help. This is what I mean. You think if the building blocks of another me are out there, they're going to leave him alone? If
there's another you out there, if there's 100 other yous out there, we'll find them and we'll fix it. Together.
You're not...
I'm not expecting you to do this.
Listening.
I think the hand immediately goes away, puts her hands by her sides. I'm sorry.
I'm telling you, Lilac isn't gonna be left alone. There's one end for Lilac, and it's being made into a piece of another thing like me, of being made into way less than what he is. And even forgetting what being made into something else like me would mean, having another one of those out there in this war, that's not something that I think any of us would want. I think he would wish upon himself. Quick question. What does Longreach call you? Because I'm getting would Longreach call you Mom, I guess is what I'm asking here.
Oh my god. They could, and then I'd sink beneath the earth and curl up into the anxiety ball, but yes, probably. At least in fucking... You're 10 years old and you call your teacher Mom, and then you die afterwards. If that helps
okay.
more.
Whatever it takes. Mom, we can't let that happen to him. We can't let him become that. And then I think, aghast at what they said, Longreach falls silent, and you understand immediately that, Longreach is saying that, as part of their drive, they are afraid and shocked and ashamed that
They're saying that they'd rather kill Luster than have them become part of another Longreach, right?
Yes.
If that's the only way, then that's what we'll do. What we'll do. Okay? We're gonna do what we can to give this person every chance at life, like we did with you. And I think True sleeps in the truck that night and probably for the next few nights.
Thanks for listening to CalazCon. This episode was edited and sound balanced by Christine Blight. You can reach her for voice acting at cvblight@gmail.com. The show's music is by Devin Nelson. You can find them on all social media at Devin Decibel. If you'd like to support CalazCon, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/CalazCon. Please tell your friends about the show too. Remember, all glory to Calazar.